it it's kind of a catch-22 to be honest. Oh, hold on. You're
hmm
you you keep making money off of my residence. You owe me a cut. So
Okay,
yeah.
that's good information.
This is our baby. We're literally like, this is like, we're the parents and we're trying to find the right person who's going to take care of our baby that we can leave with and we feel comfortable.
Hello, visionaries. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Marisa Talbert. I am the founder and CEO of Talbert Law Office, your favorite go-to legal resource for all things business, nonprofit, and intellectual property law. Ever wonder what a real life consultation looks like? Well, you're about to find out. In today's video, I'm sharing a behind the scenes look at a real life consultation, with permission, of course, so that you can get an inside look at how we approach your goals and objectives. So whether you're thinking about working with an attorney or you're just curious of how these conversations flow, this one's for you. Now, please understand that this video is for educational purposes only. This is not legal advice. Watching this video does not create an attorney-client relationship, but you should always feel comfortable with consulting with a licensed attorney if you have questions about your specific situation. If you want to schedule a consultation with Talbert Law Office, go ahead, click the link in the description box below. You'll get access to my calendar so you can schedule a date and time that works best for you. All right, now let's get into the consultation. Well, I will let you both take it away. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Let's talk through what's your concerns or thoughts or whatever, and I'm happy to answer that.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. So now you want me to go ahead? I can.
Yeah, go ahead, babe.
Okay. So we are in the process of developing a business which looks more and more like a movement than anything. That's structured around spiritual tools and guidance. We are specifically targeting women that look like us. And with these products, it also aligns with our values of sustainability, eco-friendly, just leaving Earth better than we found it. So it's spiritual, like they're basically kits, and they go along with spiritual guidance or guidance that will go along with these actual kits. And what we're trying to figure out right now, and there'll also be services as well. What we're trying to figure out now is what is going to be the best plan of action as far as setting up our business entity, any kind of trademarking things we need to do around this, and a plethora of other questions that have come up as we're navigating this new endeavor. I don't know, like, is this a business, this type of business? Is this something that you do? Does it even matter? And also, do you have anyone else that you work with that has a business aligned with spiritual tools or guidance or this type of holistic business?
So it does matter. I have other clients, I would say, that kind of have like wellness, holistic, like yoga studios. They do. I have one client specifically, who has a yoga studio and she does psychotherapy services there. So I have worked with other clients who kind of are in the holistic wellness
Mm-hmm.
space. So there's a few things to think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So will it be the two of you as the owners, or will there be additional people who kind of join in with ownership?
This is our partnership and we're looking 50-50.
Okay. So here's some things that you may want to consider, right? So looking at the short term, most people would say just start with an LLC. An LLC is generally an easy setup. It doesn't have the same type of restrictions as like a corporation would. And with an LLC, you set up your business entity, you maintain the filings every year, and you can both have your 50-50 partnership and run the business that way. The other kind of 50-50 type of partnership is an actual partnership. With a partnership, you get 50-50 partnership, but you don't get like limited liability protection. You're kind of like two sole proprietors who come together and start a business. You get taxed as a partnership, which you can also choose to do as an LLC, but it just doesn't have the same level of protection. A partnership is kind of the default structure if you two did not create some level of a business entity. What the government would just automatically see you as a partnership just by default, because you're more than one person who's working together for a common goal in business. So you can formalize that. Most of the time, I would say you probably should not form a partnership unless you have like a general partner who would be like a silent partner or like a silent investor that's kind of going to put in on, in investing on money, but not really like run the business. So that's a partnership, which you would have as a default. Back to the LLC. With the LLC, you do get a limited liability in the name protection. What that gives you is that allows you to create the business entity. And then if, let's just say 5 years down the line, someone wanted to sue you or wanted to wanted to sue you for like, you gave me spiritual information and it didn't work or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. They are only, I would say, allowed to tap into the business assets and not your personal assets, where you don't have that same cutoff or that same protection with the partnership.
Okay.
And then there's also the corporation. The corporation is generally going to be a little bit more strict in the rules and the way that you run the business. There's what we call corporate formalities and things that you have to do, the way that you have to set it up. It can still be the two of you, but you have to take on a little bit more of the roles and responsibilities. You have to have a board of directors. Again, that can be the two of you, but you have these very specific like titles and things that you have to do every year to maintain your corporate formalities. And failure to do that could result in you losing your liability protection. So a corporation generally is really good, again, if you have like an investor and they specifically, most investors favor corporations because they can, have a percentage of ownership stock. They can have they're not responsible for profits and losses. They're not responsible for anything that goes wrong. They can just earn income on the back end as passive income. So investors like the corporate structure. There's other reasons to do the corporate structure, but it's a little bit more expensive. It's a little bit more formal. There's, a little bit more requirement attached to the corporation. And if you started as an LLC, you could always convert when the time was right to another type of entity. As a baby entity, I would say probably the LLC is going to work the best.
And would it be ideal for us to open this LLC up in Delaware?
That's a good question. It's a question that a lot of people ask. So the reason why Delaware is kind of on the list as far as business corporations is because Delaware is an anonymity state. So like in California, right, your name is going to be attached to the public filing. In Delaware, it's just going to have the public filing, but it won't have your name. So people would have to pay money to get the filings that say that you are the owners of that. Another reason why people like Delaware is because Delaware has really no strict corporation LLC structure. Here's the drawback on forming your company in Delaware. Delaware does not have a statute for LLCs. So their LLC code basically says, hey, whatever you put in a contract is what counts. So that means that if you don't have it in a contract and something arises, you don't really have a recourse under the law because the law is silent. It's a contractual state. So basically they're like, we let y'all handle y'all business. Y'all better find somebody to write you a really good contract to cover everything that may come up. And if it doesn't cover it, sorry, you now, there's case law. Like there's law that gets formed off the lawsuits.
I see. Yeah.
In the code, right?
Yeah.
So like with California has a uniform LLC code that says, here's how you can dismiss a member. Here's how you can expel a member. Here's how you can do this. Here's how you can withdraw. Here's what happens if you do this. Delaware doesn't have that. So if you have more thought of it and put it in your contract or your operating agreement for the LLC, you're kind of like, okay, now how do we handle this? Because Delaware doesn't actually tell us how to handle it. So that's one of the things with Delaware. One of the other things is that, are you both in California?
No, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I live
So,
and we'll be shipping products from primarily.
Okay. So is a little bit similar, but here's the thing: when you are providing services, depending on how you provide those services, with products, it's not as much of a big deal, but with services, it depends on how you provide those services. So whatever state that you are providing services in, that state says, well, you have access to our residents, and for that reason, we're going to tax you because you're allowed to make money off of the residents of our state.
Even if it's digital, even if it's like online.
So that's part of it, right? Like, that's why I said it depends on how you provide those services. So what most states say is they have a definition on how you transact business in their state. So some states require, if you are specifically marketing to residents in that state, then you are transacting business in that state. Some states have a different definition of how they consider transacting business. But in all the states, if you are considered transacting business in that state, then they say, well, then you need to be registered in the state. In some cases, when you have like just digital and it's kind of like, well, we're just marketing across the nation, like no particular place. We just have a website and whoever finds us can find us. They're still like the laws are still kind of trying to catch up with that, right? So there's not really anything on the books yet, but the states are trying. They're trying to figure it out right now. So that's really the other drawback about Delaware sometimes is that people just think, oh, I can just register in Delaware, but then you're still beholden to 2 or more states' laws and taxes because of the way that you transact business.
Yeah.
So that's just something to consider. You have less of that when you are doing something digital, though. So you have less of that headache when it is digital. And like I say, providing services, most people just provide services like, hey, I'm on Instagram. I just got a website. They can just order wherever they're from and it'll get shipped to them. But when you're providing the services, depending on how you market those, depending on like where you say you're set up or whatever, that state could say, oh, hold on. You keep making money off of my residents. You owe me a cut. So
okay. That's good information. That's really helpful.
And then if with the thing you said about Delaware and having to have all the contracts in place, this is contracts like client interaction contracts. This is our partnership contracts. This is everything, the services, all that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your operating agreement for the LLC or your partnership agreement, whatever that looks like. Yes. The client contract, how they engage with you. What are the boundaries, like all of that, how they engage you for services, all of that. You'd want to have really, really tight contracts if you decide to basically register your business in Delaware, because they are a contract state and they're like, put it in a contract. We don't care what you put in a contract. As long as both parties agree, we're going to enforce the contract. If you don't got it, sorry, that's on you. That's kind of how they are. And that's why a lot of people like them, because they can kind of manage their own relationships with people and, in their business transactions. But if you are not familiar, and I don't want to say if you DIY, because some people are really good with DIYing, but if you are not as familiar and then something is lost, then it can be a little bit of a headache to then figure out a dispute in real time.
And then if something comes up or changes, or we realize, oh, that's something that we never thought to put in that, could that be added, or is that, how would that work?
So it could always be added. So your contracts can always be amended. not accept. Your contracts can always be amended. However, the contract, let's just say you have a contract that's signed with a client and then something happens and then you're like, oh, moving forward, we need to make sure all our contracts say this. Whatever that client, you and that client signed is going to be the binding agreement. So it'll be based on what was already there.
So this is so great. Okay. So that would go with our partnerships too. Oh man. Okay. Is that something that you could help us put together with this, or is this something that, like you probably have an idea about things to look for, things to think about when
Yeah,
people are...
I do a lot of contracts and a lot of business entities
Okay.
in Delaware. I'm actually, ironically enough, I'm in the middle of a member LLC member buyout for a business that's registered in Delaware, where they didn't put that in their contract, and so they're trying to figure out the valuation of the business to buy her out, because all it says is that a member can withdraw at any time, can resign from being an owner at any time, and now they're like, okay, so what do we do when you leave? And I'm like, well, you got to buy her out. And they're like, oh, we actually got to pay you to leave? Yeah, you got to buy her out. And so they're like, well, why? Oh, why? So one of those things where they didn't, and they had an operating agreement, but it's silent on that. It says nothing about it. So we're going through that. We're actually in the process of mediating that right now, going back and forth about how much they have to pay her to buy her out of as a 1/3 owner of the company. And so, yeah, I mean, I work with Delaware businesses quite often. I don't want to say all the time, but I work with them often just because a lot of people like Delaware as a state for registration.
Okay, that's helpful, because I started looking at the list of all the contracts we would need, and I was like, I mean, between collaborating and partnerships and the employees, there, all the things, like what even employees too, right? Like all that.
Well, okay, so here's the thing, right? And I may be able to save you some time and some trouble and some money. So we have on our website, we have our TLO Marketplace with contract templates, and they are built for you to use them over and over and over again. They are for a fraction of the price for me to actually write it up, but I drafted them all, and it comes with the user guide. Let me do a share screen. I'll show you.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love those words. Save time, money, effort, all that. Thank you. Yes.
Download, you use them over and over and over again. You get what you need. Like, let's just say like an employee agreement. And this is the way I generally write contracts, right? I'm going to write them for you to use them 10, 20 years down the line. So we're not just looking at what's going on right now. We're looking at what could happen in the future. And so we have our marketplace, and it has these contracts already ready to go. So you have the collaboration agreement. We have a non-disclosure agreement. We have an independent contractor agreement. We have an employee agreement.
And I saw that podcast guest agreement. You got it all. Yes. Let's go.
So think about what my clients, they're doing this all the time. If you have a podcast, you have guests coming on all the time. You need one contract to be able to use over and over. Here, sign this. Okay, this guest signed this. And you don't have to think about it. It's already there. It's covering the multitude of issues that can happen so that your contracts are tight. And those are digital downloads. Like I say, they come with the user guide that explains each paragraph. It explains how, if you wanted to change it, what the change would mean. Like if you wanted to change it to this or say this or do that. So that may be something that may interest you and that you can do as you need them as they come up. But basically, what I like to do is what I call a master contract. And what I generally want is to think through what could happen in the next 10 to 20 years of your business, even as you grow, and not just what is happening today. And so that is the way that we write our contracts. Is we're thinking of like worst case scenario. What do we want to prevent? What are all of the ways? And having been doing this for 7 years, I've seen a couple of things that is like, oh, add that to the contract. The other thing with, buying from the contract bank, from the marketplace, is that as the laws change, as we update the contract, you automatically get that update.
Beautiful.
We'll just automatically send it out to you and say, hey, law just changed. Here's a new updated contract that meets the requirements of what this new law or something like that.
Right. Okay.
So that may be something that may be helpful. But yeah, your contracts are definitely going to be important. And, sometimes there's the need for a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
One question I wanted to ask related to, and I don't know, I saw your intellectual property on your sign behind you too. So we're also looking at, potentially trademarking. And is that something you could help us with too?
Yes, we do trademarks as well. Now, how familiar are you with the trademark process?
Not at all.
Okay.
Girl, not at all.
So let me go through and just kind of generally explain that trademark process. The trademark process right now is about 2 years long. It is atrocious. It used to be like 9 months, which was a long time when I first started back in the day. It's almost 7-8 years ago now. It used to be 9 months, which seemed like, gosh, 9 months. Now it's just a lot.
Wow.
So generally speaking, what our trademark process looks like, and I'll kind of integrate with what the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office does as well. So if you get a trademark with us, what we would initially do is we do a trademark search. And that is us searching not only live and pending, but also dead trademarks in the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office directory. We're searching across the United States. We're searching internationally because we can access international websites, right? So we can see internationally as well. So even if it's not trademarked, we're looking at what people are using in the marketplace, because they can still claim common law trademark rights against that, even if it's not a registered trademark. So we just want to make sure that we're not going to file something and it gets denied or gets refused because we didn't do the due diligence prior to. Looks like you have a question.
I do. So, because one of the things that's come up for us is that there's a name in particular that we want that's gonna cost us a lot. So, I did do a first, like, a search for the trademark, because before we invest in that, we want to make sure that, like, but you said that even though it might not be trademarked, if someone is using it, then they might. So I also saw, like, there's no .com with it. There's several places. I didn't see any business entity in California or Delaware that had it. But, like, if some shop in, England, it has like a brick and mortar of the name that we want, like, they could potentially have the rights to that name, even if we take the steps of the business entity, trademark and everything.
So if there's, like, let's just say common law in England, there might be a chance that they might have a international trademark for it that does not show up on the U.S. registry for U.S. and domestic trademark. And so that doesn't mean that you can't use it. That just means that if they find out that you're using it, they may try to come and send you a cease and desist and say, you can't use our name. But theirs is international and yours is in the U.S. domestic. So there's a little bit of a squabble there, right? That we'd want to still avoid because there's some level of conflict. But legally, those are two different jurisdictions. And so
unless we go global, then we wouldn't have to.
Legally, you shouldn't have an issue if there's somebody international that is using it. But there may be some confusion in the marketplace. Let's just say if they have the domain, right, that matches when people type in the domain and they think it's you.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So there's different ways to have conflict outside of just the legal presence of saying, oh, I have the rights to this name, but is it going to still be confusing to consumers where you're not able to exploit it the way that you need to, right, and get the optimal benefit of it? So if something like that happens, that may not be a legal issue. It just may be a marketing issue. So we're kind of looking holistically at all of those things and how it could affect you. That's one of the reasons why we do the search. We're trying to find every loophole of, like, okay, they're using this, but they're in Wales, they're using this, they're in California, they're using this, they don't have a trademark for it, but they're well known in their region. How does that affect, right? And so what we do once we do the search is we will write out a report of everything we found, what it means. Here's some options. Here's some things to consider. And then we'll have another call like this to go over the report so that you can ask questions. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And I'll generally kind of explain it in the report to say, we found this. We don't think this is going to be a real issue. We found this. This, gives me the impression that da-da-da-da-da-da. Or we found this in the system. It's not registered yet, but it's live, which means it has priority over you because they already filed their application. Okay. And if they don't get registered, then we're in the clear. But if they do get registered, then your trademark is going to be compared against them in the registry. So you may not get, registered based on the fact that they've already filed their application. Like, I will go through all of that. And then we'll talk about, does it make sense to move forward? Does it make sense to try, even if there's like a 50-50 chance? If it's a 65-35 chance, maybe we can try, but this may not get approved. We would go through all of that based on, what is written in the report and what we find. If you decide to move forward with the trademark, then we would prepare and file the application. And then that kind of process, that 2-year process that I was talking about, would basically start. What it looks like right now is it sits in the queue in their database for about 9 months. After about 9 months, then it gets assigned to the trademark examiner, who then examines the application. They say, hey, this looks good. Or they say, we need more information. Or they say, hey, it's too close to this one. This one is already registered, or this one is already filed. We're gonna refuse it. Okay. If they give you a refusal, you get 3 months to argue why the refusal should not take place. Like, countless times of me arguing, hey, you're wrong because such and such and such, and the law says da 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 da, and this is why you should move it forward. And I've had great success doing that. It doesn't always happen. So and that's called an office action. So you get an office action refusal, and they will outline exactly why they refused it. It's too close to this mark. This mark is, has the same goods and services. They also market their, trademark by website. You market your trademark by website. So people are going to just type in a URL and they're not going to know the difference, or whatever their reasoning is. So you get 2 bites at the apple for that. They can refuse it twice. You get 2 chances. You'll get a non-final and then a final. Once they give you the final and they come back and say, no, we still think this can't be approved, you can petition it, or you can just accept, okay, it just got denied. Or they'll move it down the process to say, all right, we'll keep moving it down the process to registration. So that's kind of generally what happens with the trademark. But there is some risk in doing that. There's definitely benefit in getting the trademark. There's also a lot of risk in applying for the trademark.
Wondering what, in a or ordering things, like priority-wise, do we want to go down the path of researching the trademark before we go about filing all of our entity documents?
So in the legal community, rule of thumb would be to get your trademark first, right? Okay. Why build a foundation if you don't own the land? So in the legal space, we would say, ideally, get your trademark first. That way, your business name is secured, and then start your business. Realistically, and for people with budgets, in most cases, it's a lot easier to go ahead on and start the business first. Here's some of the pros and cons with that. A trademark, it's kind of a catch-22, to be honest. A trademark is based on use. So in order for the trademark to eventually be approved, you have to be using it. Now, there's 2 applications. There's hey, I'm using this trademark already. Give me my rights. Or there's I haven't started using it. I don't want anybody to steal the name. I'm trying to get a trademark first. I have intentions on using it. Go ahead and sign me up. And by the time you get down the line, because you're going to take 2 years, I'll have my business up and running. So there's 2 different forms. Okay. Now, eventually, for it to get approved, you have to be in the in-use status. Okay. So to say, get your trademark first. If you have a small budget, is not as realistic. One, because trademarks are expensive.
Okay.
So realistically, you would start your business. You would be able to show how well you're using your trademark, and then say, "Look, I've been using my trademark for 6 months, and it's popping. Give me my rights." At the same time, it kind of leaves you open for somebody to say, "I got the rights to that, and you got to change your business name." Or all of this merch that you bought for this brand, now you got to pass it over to me because you're infringing on my trademark because your name is way too close to mine.
So it looks like we got to do it at the exact same time.
Yeah, it's just you do it concurrently, all of it. Right?
Or you can do it concurrently. So it does, you know.
And the trademark is just for like, I mean, will it include like the logo, like all the branding and everything, or like is it just like the name, or how does?
Great question. So you can do either. So you can do a trademark that has the logo and the name. You can do them separately. Here's the drawback, right? On one or the other. If you do one, you have to use it. The Patent and Trademark Office is only going to protect exactly what you present to them. So let's just say you have Nike and the swoosh, right? If you put it in the application as swoosh Nike underneath, they're protecting swoosh Nike underneath. So the swoosh alone is not protected and the Nike alone is not protected. It has to be continually used with the swoosh Nike. If you do them separately, you can put them together. You can use the swoosh separately. You can use Nike separately.
Okay.
So, it just depends. I tell people if they think that their logo is going to change or that they're going to start using a variation of it within 5 years, then do them separately. But if you think generally you're going to be using whatever your logo and your name is together, then put it in, package it as one application, pay one fee.
That's great data.
Okay. Well then, so one of the questions I had was when we, like, as we get into business, would we be working directly with you or, and also can you like provide like legal support? Like one of the things I saw on the trademark thing, I don't know, it was like people didn't file such and such paper and their thing is canceled now or deceased or something like that. So like, would you be able to, or would there be like a retainer? And then I also want to talk about costs and fees too.
So for our trademarks, well, for most of our services, we do flat fees because I am my own client first. I've had so many people come to me specifically with trademarks because they was with an attorney who was like, "Oh, we only file it. We don't do anything else." I'm like, "Excuse me, what?" And so they come to a point where they get that refusal that I was talking about, and then it goes dead because nobody answered it or responded. So with our trademark packages, we take it from start to finish. We handle all office actions. It's a flat fee because I don't want to be confused thinking that you're going to take me from start to finish and then you tell me midway through.
Yeah.
What
what are we doing here? What is this for?
I paid for it though. I thought I could have just filed it and took a chance on just filing it. Like I paid you to be the lawyer. So yes, we take it from start to finish. It starts with that search. We take it through the application. We prepare and file the application. We answer any and all office actions. Some people, say we'll only answer an office action if they're just asking for additional information like updated address, or they call it non-substantive actions. So some people will say we'll only answer non-substantive office actions. We won't answer substantive. We answer all the office actions because our flat fee, I'm in the client's mind. Like I say, I am my own first client to know most people are not understanding or reading every little thing that you put in the contract to know it's intuitive to think that you're going to take me from start to finish. And so our packages are to be as intuitive as possible. So we answer all office actions. We get you to that certificate or the final refusal, but we keep you up to date on all of that all the way through. So if there's an office action, we're going to respond. We'll tell you, hey, we got an office action. We're going to respond. And sometimes we don't even tell the client because why do we need to worry you with it? We're going to respond. Now, if we get a second one that says it's a final, then we'll say, hey, it's looking like it's a final. What do you want to do? Are you prepared to do a petition? Do you want to go that far, or what do you want to do? So we will keep you up to date, but we take you through that process. And with the same with our, business entity formations, we're going to give you all the documents that you need. We're going to give you the internal documents. We're going to draft your operating agreement. We're going to do all of that and not just like file the business entity and then say, sorry, you figure out the rest.
Okay. I think that's good. I have a million more questions. This is our baby. We're literally like, this is like, we're the parents and we're trying to find the right person who's going to take care of our baby that we can leave with and we feel comfortable, that's going to make sure, so this is like, thank you for taking the time, the care. It's a big deal.
From one business owner to another, I definitely get it. I understand it. What I will do is, after this, I'll send you an email with a little digital booklet that kind of outlines the services so you can like take some time to look and see what's all included in everything. Okay. Just take some time to review and look over things and think about maybe what you want to do, where you want to start, part and parcel, however, whatever makes sense. And then I'll send you a link to the marketplace if that's something you want to look at again. I know this was kind of a lot of information, so just sit with it and see, what makes sense for where you.
Thank you.
That is perfect. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful call. It's so helpful, knowledgeable, and you're fun. So this is lovely.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I can talk to you all day.
I just did consultation 2 days ago, and it was another Black woman, and she said, I was so scared to get on this call because I've talked to other lawyers and they're just so mean. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you had that. So I was like, you were scared,
right?
We're not talking about crimes here. We're talking about fun.
Exactly.
I like
that.
You're so warm. Yeah, you can tell. You like what you do.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable. This is fantastic.
We feel that. Yes. Thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure. Likewise, ladies. I will send you that information and be here when you need us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa. Thanks for setting it up, KB. All right, ladies.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.